Alrighty, so after a little bit of a break for a vacation and change of looks, trying this mustache thing out, we are back into book reviews. And today's book is The Conservative Tradition. It's lectures 1 to 18 by Patrick N. Allitt. I hope I'm saying that right. I picked this up at a used bookstore for a whole dollar, and really just to get more acquainted with conservative thought and conservative history because of the I guess it's a criticism that conservatives don't conserve anything, and I consider myself a conservative, more of a libertarian in that kind of vein of conservatism, but definitely on the right hand side of the political spectrum, that kind of stuff. And so I wanted to learn. This is part of my self-education that how I pick my books is that I decided to do that. So yeah, this is one of the books that I picked up, The Conservative Tradition. And there's not a whole lot in here. It's a lot of kind of boring, dry history, but there are two quotes that I wanted to share. So the first one here, and I'll read it first and then talk about it. The Anglican clergy had been struggling for the appointment of a bishop in the 1750s and 60s. Each minister of the Church of England had to be anointed by a bishop, and that meant because there wasn't a bishop in America, each of them had to take the very, very hazardous trip back to Britain in order to be ordained. And I love that kind of perspective, that in kind of like the successive leadership development of the church. At one point in America, you actually couldn't get pastors, even if you had people who were qualified to be pastors. You had to get them back to England to get ordained, and that we needed a bishop in North America so that we could make bishops in North America, and that they were that dedicated to that kind of doctrine, that kind of process in leadership. In today's world, where you have all these guys just kind of popping up and just declaring themselves pastors because they can, rent a building and do church service-like things and have an Instagram following, the YouTube channel, a podcast, and you can just self-declare yourself to be a pastor. And I think a lot of guys do that with really no care to the kind of oversight and kind of progressive or progressing nature for pastors and stuff like that. So it's neat to learn that the Anglican Church dealt with that kind of stuff while they were organizing in the early Americas and stuff like that. There's also one more quote. The founding fathers were to speak looking both ways: forwards to a government run explicitly with codified rules, but backwards to the accumulated political wisdom of the ages. I'm a fan of how America has kind of organized itself. Have a lot of American friends, particularly some politically charged ones who have kind of influenced how I think about politics, and yeah, that kind of idea that they were really trying to make a fix to the world's problems in lieu of some of the revolutions that were happening, even though theirs did start with a revolution, and in lieu of some of the problems that monarchies and other kinds of government were causing. They really did try to make the best system, and they got it as close as possible. I'm not happy with our system in Canada, to be frank, and I've often joked about moving to Texas, that kind of stuff. But yeah, they seem to be doing that at one point. That there was this conservative idea that they need to make something that's going to last, and that they actually would have something to conserve. And that's one of the things that's so big in conservative politics, that they keep pointing back, especially in the Americas, to the founding documents and what they meant. It causes all sorts of strife with people who don't agree with those documents, because they just want to progress. They want to not be conservative. You get all these kind of talks about, does the Second Amendment talk about, weapons of war, even though it mentions militias? And there's all sorts of fighting. Well, conservatives want to conserve what was meant there, and are really concerned with trying to get back at what the original meaning is. And I can identify with that, because that's what I do as a writer and as a Christian, as a theologian. I try to get back to the original meaning for a lot of things. It's an inherently conservative thing. I don't care what the latest usage of any given biblical word is. I care how it was used by the people who were using it, because that's going to be one of the, stricter senses, the meaning of what that word is. We might have different words, and it's a shame that we really do base our faith on the kind of English version of Christianity, when really it is a Hebrew and Greek, text that we need to be kind of identifying with. And really it's just we've given up on trying to get everyone to understand basic Hebrew and basic Greek so that they can navigate those scriptures on their own for English words, which then end up getting interpreted and paraphrased and turned into miniseries, that kind of thing, where it's open to interpretation, like the first one, where like people are self-declaring themselves pastors. They're ascribing meaning to things that actually have a meaning that might be inconvenient for what they want to believe about that. And that's kind of what the heart of conservatism is, I think, is this trying to like remember what things were, so that you don't end up in a place where you don't want those things to exist. That you remember how things started. You remember what the car looked like before you restore it. That kind of thing. So this was a fun book. This was probably boring for most people. I don't know if you're going to find this anywhere. I found it at a used bookstore, but I live in a university town. We have like 5 colleges here, I think. So there are a lot of kind of oddball books that end up, around. I haven't seen it again since, so it's not multiple copies, but yeah, this is a great book. I highly recommend it if you are into conservative political theory at all. The lectures were nice, and Professor Patrick here does a great job. So hope you guys enjoy this, and if you see this book, pick it up. It's great. Take care.